Ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge packed show today. Week 8 reactions, Week 9 look forward, your lineups, my lineups, what are we doing for the rest of the season, mid-season check-in. There's so much to look at. Roll the music. Welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. And after that, frankly, manic opening, I wanted to get a bit of energy up. Really, so welcome back to all of you who are listening and who are sharing the same energy as me for this stage in the season. It is a long slog. Yeah, we are completed week 8. I took a little bit of time off just to kind of gain back some energy for life, let alone fantasy football. But fantasy football is a tricky mistress, to say the least. And we have an awful lot to talk about today. As I said at the top of the show, there are a fair few things we're going to try and cover. We're going to be taking a look at week 8 because I've neglected you for a whole week. I'm sorry about this, guys. I hope you can forgive me, guys and girls, of course, if there are any anyone not with an XY chromosome listening. Anyway, we're going to cover a little bit of the reactions from week 8, which was a bit of a monumentous week in terms of fantasy and real football as well. We are going to be looking forward to week 9 under the guise of all of the fun stuff that we normally do with matchups as well. And because we're doing a bit of a reset on it, I'm going to focus on my matchups. I'm going to tell you how I'm doing in some of the leagues as well. And the way I'm thinking as well, we're going to be thinking about your prospects for the future, not only who you should be looking to transfer for, who you should be looking. Sorry, I said transfer because there's transfer logs on the screen at the moment as well. Who you should be looking to trade for? Who should be your sneaky links? Who should be your best people going forward? But if we were to redraft today, who would we draft in the first round? Because I've talked a lot of, bad words about your first round draft selections going back as well. And I want to kind of take a look back at that and say, were any of them good? Who would we do now? And would we be confident in starting for the rest of the season? So huge packed schedule, but let's start off with, drum roll please, into later, our week 8 knee jerks. I'm not going to spend too long on this one because I should have recorded this on Monday. Life just gets in the way. Week 8 was a weird one, to say the least. Lots of games. I don't think anyone was on a bye as well, so it altered the stats a little bit as well. But I think the first thing to look at is there are 7 touchdowns by TDs. Sorry, 7 touchdowns by tight ends on, of course, tight end appreciation day or National Tight End Day or whatever they've decided to call this fake holiday that is basically George Kittle Appreciation Day. Big moves from Pitts, Kittle, Kelsey, all with 25 Pete's. Otten with 2 scores, 30 points. McBride, 128 yards and a TD. I forgot about that. That was great, isn't it? He's definitely come into himself, and I am so disappointed that I let him go in one of my dynasty leagues. But you've got Troutman making a big difference, Conklin, Ertz. Everyone's getting involved, and it's all super weird. These are not names that we were talking about at the start of the season. We were talking about Kincaid. We were talking about Laporta. We were talking about these guys. No one was desperate to draft Conklin, but he's become a bit of a treasure. Likewise, Hunter as well, Hunt Henry. It's some very odd names. And I think if this is the case, and we need to make tight ends relevant, we need to make every Sunday National Tight End Day. End of. It was. I think there were some breakouts for some of this last year's main draft stars, and I'm going to bring up Lad McConkey scoring 29 points. I think his best of the season so far. I'll have to take a look at the stats there, but yeah, he did fantastically well, and I was very glad to have him annihilate some people in my lineup. Yes, it definitely was his best performance. He's been floating around that kind of 7 to 8 point marks. He's had 2 big weeks against divisional opponents, but it took New Orleans to town on 6 receptions, 111 yards and 2 TDs. I think he is that guy, and I think he is that play action guy who will find a soft piece of coverage and just run through it. He is the guy you want on that team. Bo Nix with 30 points. Keon Coleman, I think, starting to look like a bit of a breakout with 18 points. Then you've got like Coca for who was the, I think it was a sixth round draft, a fifth or sixth round draft pick this year, compared to Xavier Leggett, who was, I think, early second round. But yeah, 18 points for him. Bucky Irving, 16 points. I think they just need to make him the running back one. He is amazing, so much more efficient than any of his other compatriots. But we're seeing some breakouts from this year's draft team, and I think Lad McConkey and Bo Nix, who I'll talk about a bit later, lead the way there from going out of week 8. We're spending a bit more time on this week, a bit more measured, but I think we can confidently say, based on last week, defenses have finally been caught up on. We always start the season with defenses being better than offenses. They're being ahead. They can study more. They're probably a bit sharper. There's less of a new playbook because they're learning schemes that they're already familiar with. But there were 37 players with 20 or more points, and that was written on Monday morning with 2 games left. I'm sure on the Monday game it was different. Yes, there was a couple of games played, but based in week 6 comparatively, 29 players, 33 in a full week 6 as well. It's just a little bit of a change of the guard, and I think maybe there were only 16 interceptions on Thursday and Sunday last week. I can't remember what happened on Monday. I have to go back and take a look. But there were 24 in week 7, and 25 in week 6. So you can see, I think there's maybe a bit of a changing of guard, but maybe it's just cornerbacks just getting tired, and wide receivers just finding those spaces that they need to do, or the quarterbacks just having a good week. Maybe it was just a matchup week. We'll have to see how that goes going into week 9. But I think it's very much indicative of the 2s and 3s getting involved. That's my 4th one. I saw a lot of guys who weren't names getting involved. Cedric Tillman, 29 points. Josh Downs, 22. Devontae Smith, 20 points. Definitely a number 2, and nice to see him have a decent game. Darnell Mooney, 20. I've just traded for him. Shakir, who is finally a thing, 20 points. Even ahead of Keon Coleman, who I think should be the alpha in that, based on the kind of XY setups. Tucker Graft as a tight end, outscoring his competition. The list goes on and on and on and on. And I think what's happening is what we're seeing, and going to the last point of defense being washed, we're seeing a trend for CB1s being lockdown corners and them taking people out of the game. They're taking out Olave. They're taking out Drake London out of the game completely. And then the guys behind them are coming up, and we're seeing some really cool stuff. That, or we're playing a lot of man, and they're just good at finding those soft zone oppositions. And going back to the Lad McConkey point, that's where we see guys being fantastic with the yards after carry, but yards after, yards after catch, being those guys who can be shifty in space. I think that's what we're seeing, and a lot of those 2s and 3s aren't the prototypical ones who are the big, powerful jump ball guys, the DK Metcalfs, the old school. Was it Larry Fitzgerald types and stuff like that? We're not seeing those guys be true alphas because these dink and dunk players are going for massive yardage. I think there's some honorary mentions for last week's knee-jerk reaction. CD finally getting his week, his target percentage is insane. I don't think that's sustainable, but I'll have a look at this. And he's one of the first-round guys I'd say now is paying off as being a first-round guy. But I think the main point I wanted to make, my 5th knee-jerk reaction here, was Kyle Shanahan still hates us. He hates you as a fantasy player. He hates you. Doesn't like you. I don't know why. What has fantasy ever done to Kyle Shanahan? Maybe someone beat him up in the league, so he just like MJ, he took that personally, and he won't let anyone have any fun. But Mason playing an injured AC joint with no injury status, and they get replaced by Isaac Guerrero, hidden injuries, Debo underused. It's in an injury game following last week's, the week before, whatever it was. He had his illness that we played 3 games for. You need to tell us this, Kyle. I don't think it's benefiting anyone, and you still had a really tough game, so it's not giving you a tactical advantage. Please, Shanahan, please. The fantasy football community loves you, loves your play. Love us back, please. All right, well, that is the week 8 knee-jerk reaction. I did have a list of waivers, but I think there's just some interesting players that you should be looking at anyway going into week 9. You're in free agency now, so maybe some of these guys are available. But I think we've got some interesting players coming up. And what I'm going to do on the screen, I will bring up the fixtures and I'll talk you through what I think is going to be interesting. Yeah, there are a fair few interesting players going into this week. Obviously, waivers has already run, but these guys might still be available on your free agency. And in a game where it's not too tough with buys, I don't believe. Are there anyone on buys this week? Yeah, Pittsburgh and San Francisco. You're obviously missing Debo, Mason. Are you missing Justin Fields? No, you're not. So there's some people out there that you're missing, but generally it's a full game week, and we've already had Houston versus New York, which Aaron Rodgers smashing it, Joe Mixon being just solid, Tank Dell 30 points. I'm playing you'll see in a minute. I'm playing someone who's already got Garrett Wilson 30 points, Tank Dell 30 points. I left Aaron Rodgers on the bench because I thought it was a Thursday night game. Things don't happen, but 3 touchdowns they do. Anyway, this week I really like the look of Darnold against Indianapolis. I think that is a matchup nightmare for Indianapolis. I think they're going to get carved up there. Although I do think now with Flacco on there, they're going to be out on the field more, so it's less chance for Minnesota defense to ruin them, and also less chance for Darnold to dot them up. But we'll have to see how that happens. Bo Nix, I really like, not against Baltimore, but his future self. I think he's trying to show something. He is a game manager plus, but we loved Brock Purdy last year, and maybe he's not quite Brock Purdy this year, but I think he's got a lot to him as well. Mattison, I like against Cincinnati. He was a weird one that showed out for me. Out of all of the teams, basically, you don't play your running backs against Kansas City because they're going to chew them up. However, Mattison scored like 17 points against them. So if he can do that against a really good run defense, a losing team, what can you do against a team in Cincinnati who I think are vulnerable to the run as well? So Mattison, I'm liking as well. I liked him from the start of the season. Isaac Guerrero, yes, he's off, but you just want the next guy up for Shanahan. So Shanahan, please don't hate us. Deontay, I put in here question mark trade. He has been traded now, and he is with the Baltimore Ravens. And I really do like him. Not against Denver. I think he's still a good possession receiver. I don't think he does any damage to Mark Andrews because he is not he's famously allergic to the end zone. So he's not going to chirp your red zone targets there. But I do think he is going to be a decent player to trade for if you've got the ability to do so, or if he's still on your waivers. Let's see if he is he still on waivers anywhere. Oh, I don't want. That's very. Sorry, guys. I couldn't quite control my PC there. I'm a bit rusty, as you can see here. But Deontay Johnson, is he showing up? Yes, he is. How available is he? I suspect he's not available in all the leagues. He's still 12% available. So you might be able to get a bit of him if you're in a rubbish league or someone's dropped him out of rage and not wanting their Panthers players. Jacoby Myers, I think, could be good down the stretch. There's no number one there. He's definitely a number one opportunity, but I think Brock Bowers is definitely the one there. He's not going to be available anywhere, though. Sutton, I think, do we believe in him? He's got 100 yards last week. Do I believe him against Baltimore? Potentially. I don't think Baltimore's defense is that vaunted, and they let people in close games. So I think this game is one to watch out for, Denver versus Baltimore. Mooney, I think he's shown out to be the number one option if we're going by that clamp down cornerback thing. You're suspecting whoever the Dallas backcourt CB1 is. I can't remember who it is these days, but he's not that great. He's going to try and clamp down Drake London to avoid the purely athletic plays. But you can definitely see Dino Mooney doing something, and I think Kirk Cousins has something enough to dot up what is a Dallas defense that's on the rise, but it's still not back to its full strength. I still think is middle of the pack, to say the least. Tillman, is he the next Nico Collins? I think so. He was very heavily sought after last week. Is he still available? Let's have a quick look. Drumroll, please. I think he's probably available in 50% of leagues. See if that is the case. Yep, he's available in 55% of leagues, so you can still go after him. There's a few other guys. Otten, I think, is definitely someone you can go. He's going up against Kansas City, which is a tough game, but you can do something with that. And Taysom Hill, I think he's still versatile. And with the Carolina defense, Derek Carr coming back in, he's going to have some weird trick plays that are going to be schooled up for him. I do like the Bengals defense against Las Vegas, despite what I said about Matterson, I do think that Cincinnati are going to be coming on top there. Gardner Minshew throws enough interceptions and does enough weird stuff and doesn't get in the end zone nearly enough that I still think it's going to be a high yardage game for Las Vegas, not a high point scoring game. Pats versus Tennessee. Yeah, I like them a lot. Tennessee are washed now that they've got rid of all their best players. Ernest Young has gone back into the NFC West, so we'll have to see what happens there. But the Commanders versus the New York Giants, and of course Texas versus the Jets. I thought that was going to be great, but it wasn't. And I'm going to have to leave you momentarily while my family come in. And with that nonsense out of the way, we are down to our third and hopefully final recording location of the evening. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you'll see a different location, same strategy. I'll try to get through this for your benefit and for my sanity as well. But this is the benefits of trying to record a podcast while you're painting the house and have two young kids as well. But enough of my woes. Let's talk about what's going to be happening this week. So we've already talked a little bit about what should have happened in waivers and where you should be looking in free agency. There are some real decent picks there out there as well, and that's going to lead on to our trade for candidates a little bit down the line. But I want to talk about what this episode, this episode or this style of episode came down to. I wanted to investigate the week ahead based on people's lineups, and I haven't done that for a while. I think we covered most of the league. There's still a few people left out there, but I thought let's do a bit of reset and let's try and get a bit more consistent once again. But this is going to be a bit of a mega episode, so we'll have to see how it goes. And I thought let's start with my team. So give you a bit of an update on the leagues I'm in as well. So I'm in too many leagues, but the ones you care about, hopefully you care about, are the ones I talk about most frequently, which are the four that I will take you through today. We have Dynasty, which the quest for the eighth ring has become my destiny. This is the one I love the most. It's the one I probably have the most time invested in, and I'm in an interesting position because for a dynasty lineup, we'll do this one first. The dynasty lineup, this is I've mortgaged my future somewhat. You will see I only have a first round pick in 2027. I've got guys on injured reserve. I've got Chris Godwin, who I traded for last year. But in terms of a lineup, I think I've got a pretty decent lineup. And you can see it on the screen here, but we'll go through it in terms of the kind of league positioning today. It's a league format where we have an East versus West conference, and the East conference, which is basically guys in the UK, is painfully good. Tim at the top there, he is a monster, 6-2. Didn't realise Dan has gone sneakily 6-2 as well. I'm at 5-3, and there's 2 4-4s, and you can see the Western Conference, it completely runs the table here in terms of this perfect symmetry that Dan pointed out. In the Western Conference, you have everyone else. 4-4 with Alex. John, my opponent this week, 4-4. I think sneaky good. I'd be surprised there. Matt, 4-4, and Kristen bring it the rear at 2 wins and 1 win apiece. Now, this has been an interesting season because we've also introduced a new rule every year. We had a rookie rule where you had to play a rookie every week. That became a bit more of a management task, reminding people to do that and having some people in. This year, we've got a best ball wild card effectively. You have to play 2 wild cards. I've already played mine, but in those weeks you get the best lineup possible. You tell me before Thursday. I think it's a really good rule. I think there's some implementation things to make sure we don't get targeting, people piling on. There were people who forgot to play there, so we prompted it halfway through the season in week 6. It was the final chance to play your first one. You can't play 2 in conference, that kind of thing. So there's some tuning there, but I'll probably do an episode on that, in terms of fantasy game types. And there's so many things I want to look at. Ghost League, which Dan brought up to me, which is a variation on the Vampire League, which I've talked about before. I'd love to bring back Zombie League, because that was a fun thing to kind of do and build those stories around. But anyway, gone off piece. You're wondering, who should I play this week, Sam? And I'm going to tell you. I don't know. We're going to have a look based on mine and John's squad and basically analyse who you should be playing by critiquing our own lineups. So if we look at the kind of headlines here, and I'll go position group by position group. This is a league where you've got to play two QBs. Well, it's a super flex. John has already benched one of his. I don't know what happened there. I think he probably had an injury somewhere along the line. Noah Fant got injured as well. Yeah, that's why. But you'll see here already, John has already got 50 points on me. He is scheduled to win, and he has not filled one of his flex spots, which is crazy. Can he fill one of his flex spots? He can with Jahan Dotson, but whether you'd want to or not, that is another matter. Maybe Dalvin Cook will get a run out. I very much doubt that as well. But he's definitely playing a certain type of game. I don't think he's playing his wild card against me. I don't think he can this week. I don't know. We'll have to see. But anyway, QB battle, I've got Lamar Jackson. He's going with Kirk Cousins. He has favourable matchups on that front. He's got Patrick Mahomes going against Tampa Bay, probably one of the worst defences. I will be definitely playing him over Kyler Murray, even with the rushing up time there. Against Chicago, Chicago is a low-key nasty defence, despite Tyreek Stevenson doing things over there. But nevertheless, this week I see a clear path to Lamar Jackson having an amazing MVP weekend. This is his arrival weekend potentially for the MVP. I would really see that, and it's probably going to fall flat on my face. Yes, he had a cold or a flu, but as someone pointed out to me, the MJ flu game, that narrative is not without merit. Kirk Cousins, I think, is going to have a great game as well, so I'm worried about that matchup more than I am with Mahomes. I think Mahomes is going to get carried by his defense over there in Tampa Bay. But I think it could be a high scoring game. I think it could be a race to 30 in that Tampa Bay game, because even without their stars, Tampa Bay are doing pretty well. So yeah, Baker will make it interesting. So John's done really well here by having Cade Austin here, who I think is potentially the number one target in that offense as well. But back to Cousins. Cousins is going to have a great game against Dallas. I think that matchup scares me a little bit in terms of that quarterback versus quarterback matchup I've got with Lamar Jackson. Then I've opted to go with I might sort this out for Joe Flacco, depending on how my Sunday is kind of gearing into. Although I've got the early window QB in Justin Herbert against Cleveland, I do think the Chargers are going to tear apart Cleveland a little bit. But I think it's mainly going to be on the defensive side of the ball. James is going to throw some weird balls. That sounded better in my head. But the running game is going to be there. But I do see Lad McConkey having a great game in that offense. So I do want that stack. So that's why I've gone for that pairing. In the running back position, I'm dodging about a little bit here. I've got A.K.A versus going and Gibbs. I've got two youngsters. Really happy with that. I'm going to clean them through. Buffalo hasn't got the best run defense and not physical up front like that. Neither has Green Bay. So Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a winner for me. And I think that game script is Jahmyr Gibbs is game script proof. Yeah, I don't care about the Montgomery of it all. He's got ETN, who's questionable. I would say he's questionable as a player. I think Tank Bigsby is so far the better player, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Saturday night trade for ETN, or maybe that wait Monday morning. It depends on whether the Jacksonville Jaguars are going all in on this tank. I don't know who they're tanking for though, because they need defensive players, they need offensive players, they need a lot of players. Yes, a high draft pick can get you a few, but unless you're looking to someone to seismically change your franchise, which I don't think you need to, I think Lawrence has potential still. We'll have to see how that ends up. But anyway, against Philadelphia, it's a good matchup, but I could see Tank Bigsby getting more play there. And I don't know who they're going to be passing to. So you only unlock the run game when you have a good pass game, and vice versa. You need to be able to play both sides of that ball. But there's some great lineups there. I think Aaron Jones is probably going to absolutely feast on Indianapolis. But Joe Flacco could make it interesting. I think by keeping them on the field, slow, methodical drives from Flacco, picking them apart, it could get them frustrated, and it could lead them away from the run game, which has kept them in good stead. In the wide receiver room, I've got Nakua, who's questionable, but I think that's just maybe just to keep him on a snap count for practice. But Seattle, I've just seen that DK Metcalf is out. I think Sean McVay has all the answers for the Seahawks. The Rams are the boogie team for the Seahawks. So, we'll see how that pans out. But I can see Nakua having a fantastic day there up in Seattle. Malik Neighbours, I'll talk about him in a little bit, but he is projected to be one of the top 4 wide receivers. Am I the only guy who hasn't seen it? And the only reason I haven't seen it is because Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones. You can't play him. I think Washington has a spicier defense than you think. They were in my kind of would-be waiver wire picks as well. Interesting player there. And John, as you see here, has already scored 50 points against me. Tank Dell, yeah, he was definitely the play. Even in that loss, he was definitely the play there. Garrett Wilson having one of those games. I don't know whether this is a narrative game, but yeah, that was crazy. Khalil Shakir, I think, is a good start as well. Really do like him going into this week. Miami is a difficult matchup though. They have this very odd identity. Have to see what's going on there. I talked about tight ends earlier, and the number twos getting, number one numbers, and Tucker Kraft being that guy. I think it's going to have to be a throwing game from Green Bay, and Tucker Kraft is QB proof. He's great and with Jordan Love if he stays in the game. He's great with Malik Neighbours if he has to come into the game. So I'm very happy there. Kincaid has not really shown it to me this year, and against Miami, has he already played Miami? I can't remember, but maybe in division he's been a little bit better. Against the Jets, he was okay. Miami, he has played against them 8 points. You can probably see a 10-point performance out of him. So, he's okay. And again, if you've got Kincaid, you start him. And this is the beauty of these dynasty leagues. You can get teams, and I'm playing against a team who has a lot of fantastic players, and I've got a lot of fantastic players as well. And I've got DJ Moore, who I'm seeing as having a bounce back game. Arizona do not have a vaunted defense. DJ Moore had a terrible game last week, but he seems to have a terrible game and then have a fantastic game. And I'm just looking at the game script here. Yeah, he came off. Actually, he's had 2 rubbish games in a row, so maybe that narrative is a little bit incorrect there. Hasn't been fantastic this season. We'll have to see how that comes about there. Elsewhere, have I got anyone in the defenses? I'm not favouring Nick Chubb. I think the Los Angeles Chargers defense is too good for them to get in there. Trey Benson, John's got on his bench. Yeah, he could be a play if James Conner does have a knock there. But John really hasn't got much of a depth here. He's going to have to play someone like Jahan Dotson, who has not got the time there. So if I was John, I would be looking towards the waiver wire or looking for a trade candidate to get someone in there to fill that flex spot, which has just been, I said about DK earlier. Noah Fant just come out as being injured as well. John doesn't really have a huge amount there. And if we look at the players available in this league, if we look at the flex players that we're looking at there, Mike Gesicki, could be interesting. I think Mike Gesicki could be an interesting play with T. Higgins out, although it's going to be a target funnel. It's going to be all Jamar Chase. If he can get him open, he will be open and he will be targeted heavily, I would imagine. Tyler Boyd, I'm not interested in him. More not interested. There's not a great deal of depth in this, and that's what you get with Dynasty Leagues. You need to have a deep and powerful roster, and that's something I've got in the bench. It's whether I can get the right players on the field and in my lineup to play that as well. I'm thinking about Joe Flacco. Maybe he's actually a better choice for me than Justin Herbert, because game script could go very heavily defensive, whereas I think that the Indianapolis Colts are going to have to play behind. Does Michael Pittman get a boost? I'll need to compare the stats there of his starts with Flacco and without Flacco. He's been solid though. I think people, excuse my French, but they shit on him a little bit. I think he's solid. He's just dependable. If you want 10 points, he's probably going to get you there or thereabouts. He has very few bust games, or very few bust games of late. Gabe Davis might be the only pass catcher, but he is questionable with a shoulder injury. Here we go. Hasn't shown it at all for me. He is probably going to be a casualty on this team. I think the experiment has gone. Elijah Moore could be interesting. Target leader last week, but obviously Cedric Tillman was the guy in there. But I think targets are probably more of a dependable stat than touchdowns. So I'm looking to Elijah Moore as maybe being a switch hitter for me this week. Isaiah Likely, Mandrews is the guy. He had a great game since best game since the open up. He is the future. He's just not Andrews right now, and I'm not worried about Deontay Johnson going to the Ravens, as I said earlier, because he is not a red zone target, unlike our friend in the tight end room, Mark Andrews, who very much is a red zone threat. Moving on, we're going to be looking at a redraft league, and this is the Hock Tour Tagovailoa Invitational. I think it's the first time I've ever said that even vaguely close to right. Another strange league, 16 players. A lot of players here, and you'll see I'm at a healthy 2-6. Oh, this is brutal. Now you compare that to the Ireland League, which I just showed you, where I was 5-3. That's maths, right? Yep. I'm out of it, and this is something that if your commissioner isn't doing, I would advise them to do, because it was a bit of it entices people in a little bit, and you might be able to see it too well on my screen here. But I'll try and pop it out into another window so you guys can see it better. Yeah, here we go. Every year I do a bit of a Monte Carlo analysis. It's a great tool. I'll put it in the show notes. I can't remember what it's called now, but it'll take all of the relative weightings of team success and team strength, schedule strength, etc., and compare them against it. And based on this, I have a 3% chance of getting to the playoffs. That's painful. I'm not quite the worst off. There's a couple of guys who are 2-6 and only have 1% chance, and that's because this is a format of league which has divisions, and divisions. Some people poop on it so much. I love it. I love it because it builds these little rivalries. Sven, Harry, and James in my division here, we're all fighting for it. Sven is definitely the top there, but there is no clear winner in this league, which, wow, I've still got a chance. And I think I posted the meme the other day. So you're saying there's a chance? Because there is still a chance for this, and things can go weird and wonderful. Maybe I didn't post in this league, but I'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, we've got four divisions: East, North, South, and West, all with 4 players in this 16-man league. It is crazy. Everyone plays everyone eventually. I think we miss out one league, one division each, but you get the opportunity to face them in the playoffs, and we'll rotate it year in, year out, just like the NFL as well. So this is what this idea was about. But this whole league setup was designed to entice new people and be a bit of a level playing field. And you can see it levels. I got the 7th overall pick. I thought I did all right, and I've started sucking. And I've gone into the week at a bit of a downer as well. 10 points coming from Bruce Hall. I have had the most brutal losses. Check out this last week. 161.94. Going into the Monday night game, top scorer of the league, 20 points, however many points ahead. And then Jack comes in and scores. Is that a point more than me? No, it's not even a point more than me. 0.42. I lost on 0.42. That is a kneel down. That is a half a catch in this format. Painful. Anyway, sorry, and I've had plenty of weeks where I have been blown out. But again, here, 0.5 points the week before. God, you can see why I've lost. Yeah, absolute blowout there. And I've always been a relatively high scorer. Yeah, 20 points against my brother. Actually, he thrashed me there. 14 points. But again, I'm in the top 3 scorers. 5 points against Sven in division. That was painful. 13 points against James. Yeah, I did lose badly to him. Won the first one. But yeah, I need a streak, and this is very much a league that I need to be perfect in, and I don't think I'm going to be perfect against Matt, who is doing. I think he's doing pretty well. He's 6-2 in his division. That probably makes him the top. Yeah, he's 6-2. He's in a strong division. 6-2, 6-2 in the first 2 possessions. a 3 win and a 2 win drop off thereafter. There is only one. There is no one undefeated. John, who is in my opponent in Dynasty. He is a 7-1 ahead of another face that we know and love against Dan, 5-3, who is I think one of the highest point scorers in the league. But just again, it's about who you play, not when. Sorry, it's about when you play, not who you play. And this week, I think I'm going to be in for a tough one. I've got some great players. I've talked about Bruce Hall before. His RB1 is not there. Yes, he has some great games, and statistically, it looked all right. Just couldn't get in the end zone. I think that's what let him down on Thursday. Not that he was let down. It was a great game. Really interesting comeback to watch, actually. I would definitely recommend going back and having a look at that. But we've already talked about Cousins. I think he's going to have a great game. I'm going up against Daniels, who is going to have a ball of a game. So I've lost that matchup already. I don't think there's anything I can do there. Chase Brown, I don't really see. Has he been consistent? He's been relatively consistent. Again, he's got that Zach Moss flex play opportunity. Is it an RB1? It is not. Already talked about Malik Neighbours. I don't see it, but he's probably going to have an okay game against Washington. He is very much a target hog. If we look at the number of targets last week, 13 targets. 99% of the snaps he's available, 7 receptions there. That's not a good percentage though. So I don't think Malik Neighbours is as consistent as everyone talks about. But I have Terry McLaurin, so my hope is that the funneled offense of our friend on the opposition, Jaden Daniels, is all going to go to Terry McLaurin, and that is a tactic that I recommend everyone use as well. If you have a player who is being thrown to by your opposition's quarterback, and you want to limit the damage and maybe take advantage of it, because quarterbacks can throw interceptions. Wide receivers often can't. That's where I'd look to go. I have got Sam Laporta, who is an early start there. I see it being a high-scoring game. I think Sam Laporta will get more involved. I feel like he's been on the field quite a lot. Yeah, he has. Yeah, it's at 95, 79%. Good game last week. 6 receptions for 48 yards there. That's not too bad. And a TD as well on National Tight End weekend. We already talked about that. Yeah, I think is a good play against Green Bay, but I'd be favouring Detroit to run the ball down their throat and rack up that score. I've got Elijah Moore, Lad McConkey. This is a heavy flex league, so they've got lots of guys there. Already talked about Cedric Tillman. I think Elijah Moore is probably the better play long term than Cedric Tillman, but of course we want Cedric Tillman for the high upside opportunity. Cedric Tillman has not been it's not a new thing. He's a couple of This is his second year in the league. Yes, it is now. Just looking up on the screen, but he has been around and about for a long time, and around about a lot this season. He's been given opportunities now, but not a huge amount of targets. And I think it's maybe just he's been on the second team offense with Jameis for some time now, whereas Elijah Moore has been more consistently bedded into offense. Yes, he hasn't got as many opportunities because I think Amari Cooper demanded so many of them, but now that Amari Cooper's gone, I think both of these guys are going to get some fantastic opportunities. So, yeah, Browns pass catchers, Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman, I think they're probably going to cancel each other out. We talked about Coker being a good opportunity. He had a bit of a breakout last weekend, whether he'll manage to consistently take that. He's already had a 10-point game, but he basically wasn't played at the start of the season because I believe he came off injured. Is he a 5th round draft pick or something like that? Yeah, interesting player, and I do like it against New Orleans, who I don't think have as great a defense as everyone talks about. We talked about Gabe Davis and Shakir. These are my teams, so I'm going to have some commonality there. Christian Watson, so inconsistent. Just look at that, 10, 0, 8, 0, off, 15, 1.5, 8. That is a crazy season, and I talked about it at the start of the season. I preferred Romeo Dobbs over anyone, but I said Tucker Kraft is the pass catcher you wanted in that offense, and I was right. Again, he could have a baller of a game, he could have a naff game. This is anyone's. I think I have the more consistent team here, but Matt definitely has the spiky guys. He is playing Juju Smith-Schuster, who's questionable. I don't think he played any snaps. He played 10% of snaps with an injury or an illness a couple of weeks ago. Didn't play against Las Vegas. Is he going to get any play at Tampa Bay? I don't think so. I personally, if I was him, if I could have, if you're playing Jaden Daniels, you can't play Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is going to have a weekend of it. I've already talked about the fact that I'm not playing Kyler Murray. I would definitely play Kirk Cousins ahead of that. Bucky Irving's questionable. I've talked about he needs the ball more, but he has missed practice, and for a running back, they need that consistency, and it is a shared backfield as well. Tyler Algier, I think, could have an interesting game. He hasn't had the snap percentage, but all it takes is for one bad ball and Micah Parsons to come flying at Bijan Robinson for it to be Tyler Algier's game. I talked about, almost got mixed up. Tank Bigsby, I think, is going to have a great opportunity this weekend against Philly, Philly are getting it together. They don't have the best run defense, but yeah, an interesting team. And again, I'm facing someone who's missing players with injury as well, DK Metcalf. But I would be looking to put, if I was Matt, put Deontay Johnson in there. Yes, he's ready to contribute straight away, according to Jim Harbaugh. Of course he is. Of course that's what they're going to say. Missed the game against Cleveland last week, but against Denver, I think they're just going to have a package for him. They're going to have something designed to get him open in space, and maybe finally not be allergic to the end zone. But this is going to be a game on a knife edge. I think I haven't helped myself by having Brees Hall in a lineup early on. Would I have done something differently? Probably not. I don't have the opportunity here because if you look at this league, it is even more bare. At running back, Jerome Ford is your top option here. Jalen McLaughlin, Roshan Johnson, don't want any of that. David Moore, Troy Franklin, Jalen Naylor. Oof, no. Gasicki might be having a look at Gasicki actually. I might have double back on that one. And this does have kickers and defenses in this league, but yeah, I think I'm going to be sticking with my guys. Actually, I think I'm going to pick up. I'm going to do something on the fly. I'm going to pick up the Los Angeles Rams. Oh no, the Rams are a great option if you've got if you've got them this week with so many out. And I read a stat earlier actually. Who's our cornerback? I need to remember. Let me take a look at the depth chart here. One of our cornerbacks, Darius Williams. So here we go. Our nickelback. He has picked off this, the Seahawks so many times in the last 2 years, and you know he's just got their number. He just understands their play, and yes, it's a slightly different game script. But you know, if you stuck for an offense, for a defense, I think Los Angeles Rams are one to maybe stash for later on down the stretch. But yeah, interesting lineup. I think that the key takeaways from this this group of guys is Juju Smith-Schuster is probably a bust in this one. Yeah, does Matt have the advantage on me in some other areas? Yes. Are we all making the right decisions? I think possibly, but sometimes you just got to play the best players you've got. And in leagues where there are 16 players and you've got to play a lot of players, sometimes you've just got to play what's in front of you here. Now, the eagle-eyed among you will notice that I don't just have sleeper tabs open. I know, sacrilegious, isn't it? I do still play in a league, which is the NFL Fantasy. This app is absolutely horrible, and it hurts my eyes every time I see it. But John, that's just for you. I love you really. This is I've got an interesting matchup here, and this is an interesting league because 8 people go to the playoffs. And I posted a date, and I think of those, you know, people above 6th in the league, basically, you've got a 65% chance of getting in there. If you're in the top 4, you've basically got an 85% chance in here. So I'm not playing for much. I'm playing for pride. I'm playing for positioning. But positioning is weird. You'll notice there is a 4 column here. You would think that would be the tiebreaker, wouldn't you? And I'm just doing this as a bit. This is a bit to just get on the commissioner for this league, John. Hopefully you're listening. But you know, should not be decided upon that. You would think so. Should not be decided on head-to-head. Well, you would think so as well. But John has managed to leapfrog me despite not playing me, despite not having a better head-to-head record than me. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I think what actually must be, I'm looking at it here. No, it's not the streaks. That's not how it's calculated. It's not the percentage wins. It's not the for or against. It's not that. If I look at the breakdowns, maybe that's right. No, I've got the best breakdown. I should have been. Wow, I didn't realise that. I would be 53 and 19. So very rare opportunities for me to lose in some of these games. If we look at the coach rankings, yeah, I think the coach rankings are rubbish because sometimes it just shows you've drafted well and you've got a load of great options on your bench. But if you look at the true rankings, I'm at the top there. So John, tell me, why am I not top of the league? I cannot tell you. Anyway, I'm in the position. I'm in the playoffs. I am not going to complain any longer. Otherwise, John will dot me points. But I am playing Kristen, who is 4-4. At this stage of the season, this is a there's something to play for. You just don't want to lose out, basically. If you pick up a winning record after 14 games, you're pretty much in. So I need 2 wins in the next few games, and then I'm probably going to sit and start to think about the playoffs as well. And that's a position that I'm not in the league we last caught up in. I'm trying to gain every win I can. I need to win out to even stand a chance. And that's a 3% chance at the very least. But yeah, we're going to talk about some similar players, and we're probably going to get through this a little bit quicker. So I've got Jaden Daniels, Alvin Kamara, who we haven't talked about yet, Kyron Williams, Terry McLaurin, who we've talked about, CD Lamb, Tucker Craft, again, you're seeing a bit of familiar things here, and J.K. Dobbins, who I'm starting at the moment. I've got Mike Evans on the bench, Nick Chubb, who I would love to start, but I just don't think this is right for him yet. He is going to be a down the stretch kind of player for me. DK Metcalf, who's obviously out, Sam Laporte, who is actually on my bench despite being a 3rd round pickup, and Tyler Bigsby, and Tyrone Tracy, who is a sleeper hold. Pick him up, guys. Pick him up. He is this crazy rookie who's a 5th round nothing. Everyone thought that it was going to be Devin Singletary's game. He is still available in 50% of leagues. He's probably on your waivers right now. He's probably on your. It's probably not that accurate. It's probably closer to 30% of leagues because the NFL, the people who play on the NFL app typically aren't quite as hardcore as the sleeper lot. But you look down the stretch, Washington this week, I think if it wasn't game scripted out, I'd be playing that. I picked him up for Carolina next week. He's got Tampa Bay in a few weeks' time. Dallas, who have a rubbish run defense. New Orleans down the stretch. Indianapolis in week 17, which is your championship weekend. That's the kind of player you want. So yeah, go after Tyrone Tracy. I'm not playing him this week because I've got too many better options, and I think this is one I should it's going to come back to haunt me and bite me in the arse later. Should win comfortably, but yeah. Let's look at the matchups here. Jaden Daniels versus Joe Burrow. Who would I start? I would be starting Jaden Daniels. It's obvious. Do I like Joe Burrow? Yes, I do. I think he's great. Has he had a hard rap this season? Yes. Have the Bengals been playing off their back foot because they're notoriously slow starters? Yes. But he is definitely coming back into his own. Is he a fantastic wide receiver? No, not wide receiver. Quarterback for fantasy. Left to be confirmed there. Didn't score great last weekend in a loss. Can it get frazzled? I think that's more game script and I think that's more coaching than his fault. But Joey B, this weekend I think is going to be great against Las Vegas. Do I think it could be a boat race? Yes, I do, and that's why I would maybe just shy away from him over Jaden Daniels. Obviously, Jaden Daniels, you're playing him if you've got him. Kristen's other options, quarterback, she hasn't got any. But if we look at some of the players who are available that you could have a look at, let's be fair here. QBs for this week, who we're looking at, Aaron Rodgers already played. Geno Smith, I'm not favouring. Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff. Jared Goff's interesting. MVP chat, all of that fun stuff, and I think is well deserved. But it's based on efficiency, and efficiency is not a stat you necessarily want in a fantasy quarterback. Sam Darnold, who actually slings the ball, that's someone you want. So yeah, there's some players in there that are definitely available that I would play. I think Sam Darnold, I've already talked about him being an interesting pickup. Joe Flacco again, I think could be an interesting pickup. So there are players who I would play above Joe Burrow this week, for sure. I've got Alvin Kamara, who I like a lot, going against Carolina Panthers. I think game script works. He's healthy. He's the number one guy, but both receiving and running. Going against Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry against Denver. This could be interesting. Denver have a good defense. That's hard to say. Wow, I've never seen that. He's actually 100% rostered. Normally you get some people who just don't roster the best players in the league. I think he's a fantasy RB1 by some way, especially in half PPR, but probably in PPR as well. But let's have a look at his track record. Has he had a dud game? Has not had a dud game. This is half PPR. Wow, 230s, 226s. Yeah, you're playing Derrick Henry, and I'm going to suffer at the hands of him. He's going to score gangbusters despite I don't think he's really faced a really good defense except in week 1 where he was held to 10 points. Are Denver as good at Kansas City? I think it's debatable. I think it'll be interesting to see when he goes up against Pittsburgh in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, you're playing Derrick Henry, and again, her bench options available to are limited. You're definitely not paying Cam Akers anytime soon. I would look to get Brock Bowers on that bench, off that bench though. That's someone who I'd look to do. But this is a league where it's not a full flex league, and this is why you need to get off the fantasy app. They don't have WRT flexes. They just have WR flexes. Who does that? Anyway, it disincentivizes the tight end position, which is disincentivized even more. Either way, I'm winning on that one. I'm not fancying Travis Kelce against Tampa Bay. I think it's going to be a running game if they've got any running backs. Maybe Carson Steele. But either way, yeah, Travis Kelce is not the guy. I think they're going to scheme up some cool stuff for DeAndre Hopkins, and we'll have to see what happens there. But the other running back position is a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end flex league. Kyron Williams going against Eckler. I think that's obvious. Kyron Williams is going to feast. He has had so many touchdowns. Is it 9 or 10 games in a row? Let's have a look at the stats here. Rushing touchdowns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the season. He missed out last week, but he did get a receiving touchdown. So he has got in. Yeah, that's crazy. In 7 games in a row, he scored a touchdown. Wow, didn't think he was that good. I'll talk about him a little bit later, but fancy QB1? Fancy RB1, sorry? Potentially. I think that down the stretch we'll look at that. Eckler is an also-ran. Unfortunately, his numbers have not been great this season. You know, 6s, 4s, occasional 10 and 12s. Against New York Giants, he did okay, but yeah, it's Brian Robinson's backfield. And really, it's Jaden Daniels' backfield, but well, enough about that. Terry McLaurin going to get Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen shows up occasionally. He showed up in London, but he's not Keenan Allen anymore. Look at how many goose eggs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 3.5. Let's call it 3.5 goose eggs. He is a name only, and I'm afraid, not someone I want there. CD Lamb versus Malik Neighbours. Malik Neighbours, again, he's sitting there. Everyone loves him. I just haven't bought into him this season. I don't know what it is. Much for Tyrone Tracy this week, actually. And if we look at his stats going back the last few weeks, actually, has Malik Neighbours really shone out, or is he riding high on some very early games? I think it's more the latter. He's disappeared in the middle of there. I think maybe he was injured a little bit, or maybe that was just when Daniel Jones was truly abjectly awful. He did play Washington last time, 127 yards and a receiving touchdown. Maybe you're looking at him actually, but that is a decent option for Kristen Tav, and probably someone she's going to rely on with Stephon Diggs going on IR and on her lineup, and Brock Bowers not being able to play as well. She has got Tua Vailoa actually. I would play Tua this week at Buffalo against over Burrow against Las Vegas. I think game script is going to favour more of a throwing game against Buffalo. That's who I would change up for her team as well. Hopefully you don't do that, and hopefully you succumb to me using your own team rather than that sounds weird. Hopefully you get beaten by me. No, that sounds even weirder. Hopefully I win. I just want to win a game, that's all. Let's not get weird about it. J.K. Dobbins and Zach Moss. I think we all prefer J.K. Dobbins there. Zach Moss is doubtful. I didn't realise that, actually. So, yeah, I'll be taking him off. But, again, the options are thin. But there are some decent players in running back and flex positions in this league as well. Running back, I'd be looking at Alexander Mattison. I think he's got a game script, good game. There was this last week. I talked about it already. He's I think, but last week there was this narrative going into that you don't play your running backs against Kansas City, and he didn't show out that great, but he didn't do too badly either. And this is the only team he's really done badly against. So I think against Cincinnati he's got a bit of a bounce back to him. I don't think he's going to get game scripted out. Rio Dowdle, no, you don't want that. So there's some gross stuff in running backs. Everyone's gone after running backs. Half PPR, that's where you go first. But Jacoby Myers, interesting. I've already talked about him. Calvin Ridley, I'm avoiding that. Cedric Tillman, you probably want a piece of that as well. I'm sure Elijah Moore is there as well. But there's definitely some options here if you want to play someone else in your flex or wide receiver positions. Travis Kelce, Tucker Kraft. I think Tucker Kraft's favouring as well. Yep, I think this is a bit of a game for me where hopefully I should be able to do some damage despite having a bit of a banged up bench as well. And hopefully I'll be going into there at 6 and 3 and securing my position. I think that's where I need to get to. Some of my other 5 and 3 guys who are playing as well. John looks like he's scheduled to win as well. Tom looks like he could get beaten by Ed. Ed has had a weird season. I do rate him to get back into it and have a run late on. We've got Boz. He's going to have a tough game against Tim, who never really quite puts it together in this league. And then someone who's stolen my name, Herbie Your Enthusiasm. Alex, don't think I have. I don't know about that. I don't think you even got Herbert on your lineup anymore. That was last season. Can we make a fancy collective decision here that if you're playing with a team name with a pun, you have to play that teammate. If you drop that person, we had this last week. Someone didn't play Puka Nakua in Pukua in Nuke. Words can't get them out. In Puka I Trust. You should forfeit that team name, James. You know I'm looking at you. Anyway. I'm hoping for a win here, 6 and 3, and pushing me towards the playoffs. And we'll talk about what you want to do based on your position a little bit later on. And that brings us safely into the arms of Sleeper once more. And the final league I wanted to give any time to, which is our franchise league. Now, franchise league is a dynasty league on steroids. take a look at these lineups. 1 QB, 1 running back, standard. 2 wide receivers, okay. 2 tight ends, okay, interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4 flexes. And wait, 1, 2, 3, 4 more flexes for IDP. Oh, kicker, defensive line, linebacker, DB, and a bench as long as you need to. This was came out of the idea of having an IDP league, and lots of people have IDP leagues, and they add a bit of sauce into it as well. But I wanted to balance it out to make sure you could build a team from defensive players, like have a defensive-minded team, and win, or have a offensive-minded team and win. This is an interesting one. We also play against the median. It is a bit of a everyone's trying to work it out because we also have a salary cap. I'll just flash this up here. We have a salary cap tracker as well of everyone's got, and we're trying to work out what we're going to do into next season. Dan, my opponent this week, has been buying all of the picks. And I'm not even joking. He's sitting down here at the bottom here. If we take a look at the picks, he has 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 6 of the 12 first rounders next year, and it's going to be paying a pretty penny on his salary cap there, but he's going to be set for good. He's decided to punt on this season, and I'm really interested to see at this stage of the year. He's 4-12. I'm 10-6. I'm definitely in the race for a playoff position. I think if playoffs happen today, I would be in. I think I'm in 4th. Yeah, so I think the top 6 get it here. Do I want to buy? Hell yes, I want to buy because there's so much uncertainty in this league, and I'd love to see what happens here. But loads of rules here. The point being here is this is quickly becoming one of the more engaging leagues. We have a great contributor, Matt, who is writing up league write-ups every week, doing a great job there. I'm doing regular updates when it comes to kind of league win rates, and again I'll post this up in for you guys to see if you're watching on the stream as well. You'll see because of the median scoring position as well. 50% is pretty much available for everyone. Even Dan, who's down there, or is it in the middle there? 41%. He's down in the dumps at the moment, so there's still very much to play for. And I think adding things like this to your leagues just makes it a bit interesting, and making sure you have a hook, something to be really engaging with, whether it be salary cap, whether it be write-ups or something like that, is really important for keeping you interested, because this part of the season, it can be a real slog. We're coming down to the end where you're maybe 6 games away from your playoffs. Well, maybe 5. Week 9 through 14 is the sprint to the end. You want to get as much. You need to get over 500 at the very least. You probably need to get to 9 wins for most decent competitions. If you've got a freebie league, I'm joking. On the NFL app that automatically does 8 playoff positions because it can't work out 6 and buys. Anyway, beside the point. You need to be able to have focus on it, and I think having something that you can buy into, that's why Dynasty is never a write-off. You never stop playing, which is good and bad. It's great if you've got you need to fill time, bad if you've got a compulsive personality disorder or something like that, or obsessive personality disorder. No, not making light of OCD, addictive personality disorder, which I definitely do when it comes to fantasy at the very least. The fact I talk about it all the year round, it's probably going to get me cancelled all talking about that. Anyway, it's late at night. I'm talking fantasy football on my own in my living room. But the franchise mode has been really interesting, and I'm in the business of trying to create an app for it, because at the moment everything is managed on a spreadsheet. So if any of my listeners, near or far, have any app coding skills and know how to turn this into a database and into an app, I would love to hear from you. I have a vague idea of an adjacent understanding, working in IT for many years, but do I feel confident? Do I hell? Anyway, with that, we'll take a very quick break and be back with you on the other side after a message from our sponsors. We don't have any sponsors. And we'll be looking at players to... we're looking down the stretch. Let's continue on this thing of down the stretch. I won't spoil it. I'll see you on the other side. Now, coming back into this, for the eagle-eyed amongst you and those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see 100 more tabs on Chrome have suddenly appeared, which, yes, it is smashing my RAM.
no doubt about that there. But what I wanted to do is we've talked about where you are in the season and what you should be doing next. I'm always a big advocate of saying, never give up, never surrender. That's a bit corny, but you know what I mean. I think that's from some kind of meme. But I was taking a look earlier for some content ideas, and it occurred to me that I went to the Scott Fish Bowl in-person draft. Great event. I highly recommend to do an in-person draft. I'm going to get at least one of my home leagues with a big board for prosperity and do a sticker draft. It's great fun. You make some stupid decisions, but good fun. But I entered some auctions. It was all for charity, and I've always used to rate my drafts the Football Guys app. And it's been great. And I realised that for $14 or something like that, I got the Hero membership, the Hall of Fame membership, which is normally $8 a month. Crikey, basically £100 for the year, and I haven't used it at all. And guys, I think it's a great app. And I've used a couple, and a couple of people have asked me, if I'm starting, what should I use? I'm not a big fan of paying for other people's stuff, except maybe draft season, so you can get some better understanding than the consensus rankings. If you want to shell out a couple of quid to help your creator, as long as you get something back for it, that's great. Do I think these things are a huge value? No, because sometimes they end up playing your leagues for them, and unless you're doing some crazy stuff where it involves money leagues, for me, where I am in my fancy journey, trying to encourage you to go for the game, do I recommend this? Not for the money, but if you happen to be able to get it on a thing from a charity auction, then do it. That's what happened to me. So anyway, great work from the Football Guys. I also tried out this season the Ultimate Draft Kit, which I think I used twice. I don't recommend that, but I do support the fantasy footballers. They're a great thing. It's just because I think I'm beyond. That sounds crazy. They're 15-year veterans of the podcasting game. Now, from my fancy understanding, I feel like I've evolved above the tools that they need. However, the Football Guys tools are really in depth. But anyway, it got me thinking, because we're looking at what we do moving forwards, depending on what position you're in. And I thought about the real NFL. I was like, and then I thought back to our draft. I was like, well, what would happen if we did this again? Who would I want moving forwards? Who would be my now number one draft pick? So I'm not going to redraft. I did that last year. What I'm going to do is give you 5 names each position. I'm going to give you your top 3, an honourable mention who just missed the cut, and a sleeper pick for every position. And we're going to start off, and these are my guys who I want for the rest of the season. These are the guys who I would give up a lot for. I would trade for, and I want the sleeper picks and the honourable mentions, because those are the guys you might be able to pick up on the sly as well. And I'm going to start with the running backs, and I think it comes to no surprise that in the running back position, there are some obvious winners here, and I've taken a look at who's it down the season and stuff. And so in my bronze position, my number 3 pickup, it is Saquon Barkley. He is currently the RB3. He is rostered in 99% of leagues. You're not getting him, but what you can do is trade for him, because he's had these games where he's disappeared as well. There've only been 1 or 2 of them, but he has a tendency to do that. And do we think the offense like that is going to be consistent? Maybe. It only takes 1 game for him to come out or get game scripted out, and they have no one else to turn to. And they are seeing Jalen Hurts run a bit more in scrambles, so maybe that's going to take it away from him, maybe it's going to benefit him. But obviously against New York Giants, he had an incredible game. He's had some great games against New Orleans, who I think they play again, maybe? No, they don't. But looking down the stretch, Jacksonville, Dallas, Washington, they've got the NFC East opposition. You want that in terms of defenses. The Rams aren't great against the run. Baltimore, not the defense you need them to be. Carolina again, Pittsburgh, Washington, Dallas in your playoff final weekend. That is the player you want, and he's a great specimen of a man. So you definitely want a bit of him, but you're going to have to give up a pretty penny, and you're going to be having to look at a team who's out of it in a redraft league to be able to stand a chance to get him. In my silver position is the current RB1. I've talked about this already, I've kind of alluded to this already. He's 99.9% unavailable, sort of rostered already. Yes, he's only had a bad game against the Chiefs. He doesn't come up against them again. Down the stretch, you've got Denver, could go either way, I think. Pittsburgh, I think that could be an interesting, tough position. This is why I haven't given the first, but he is throwing out 30s in half PPR. That's crazy. Down the stretch, week 14 going into your last regular season game is his bye week. So you're going to want to make sure that you're in a good position not to need to fight for that week. But then he goes into New York Jets, Pittsburgh. Again, the NFC North is nothing to joke about, and Pittsburgh are a scrappy team. And then at Houston, that is a player that you want on your season-winning team, hopefully. So Derrick Henry, of course, he's going to be the number 2 running backs, and the running backs were easy because I have a favourite. We already talked about him. But we're not going to get onto him yet. We're going to do an honourable mention first. I almost tricked myself there. Joe Mixon was out of action for a good chunk of the season, but so consistent over the last few weeks, and even in the losing game against the Jets last night, did fantastically with 16.6 points, 106 yards. He's so consistent, and they're running the ball through him. So while the game script is there, go for it. He has got Dallas down the stretch, Jacksonville, week 14 bye, and then the playoffs, Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore. You want him for Baltimore, but Kansas City is a tough one there. So maybe he's kind of just made the cut. Honorable mention, but I like Joe Mixon a lot, and he runs so powerfully. Love that. Not quite as powerfully as Derrick Henry, mine, but he's just he's a shiftier version of Derrick Henry. But my number 1 running back, I've already talked about him, Kyron Williams, RB6 on the year. Don't know how he's fallen down that so far on what has been a frankly crappy team for a good long while now. He is balled out with Matt Stafford coming back in, Puka and Cup. They open up the game. He's got Seattle. I think he's going to feast this weekend. Miami, feast. New England could well be a feast. Philadelphia, not a great run defense. New Orleans, which one they're going to turn up there. And down the stretch, San Francisco, tough game. New York Jets, again, could be a tough game, but Arizona, the last, that revenge game in week 17, the narrative is just there. But if he keeps putting up such consistent numbers, and that's what I want from an RB1, I want those consistent numbers, I really do. Someone I can rely on and not be disappointed. And he would, I don't know why everyone passed him up in the first round. I would have had him in the first round now over Breece Hall, but hindsight is a fickle thing, obviously. And my honourable mention and my sleeper pick, actually, goes to Najee Harris. Bet you weren't expecting that. Bet you were expecting a J.K. Dobbins, David Montgomery go easy. No, I'm going Najee Harris. I looked at the stats. He is improving week on week. He's getting more of a share of the game. He is playing Washington, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Cleveland again. Those are matchups I like, and he is gaining the number 1 position. He's getting 20 carries. That's great, and he's looked better with Russ under centre as well. So this is a player that I really like. Yes, he's down in the dumps a little bit because Kansas City in week 17, you probably want a shot of him by then. It's not going to go anywhere well for him. But Philly, Baltimore going into the playoffs, he is a great asset to have. So Kyron, he's there. Henry, he's just below. It was really tough. Barkley, again, fighting for an honourable mention. Bit of a drop-off, bit of a teardrop there for Mixon. And my sleeper pick, who you could definitely pick up off waivers. Someone, he's on a bye this week. People will have rage dropped him for being on a bye. Go pick him up, he's available in your league. You will not be disappointed. Wide receivers, buried the lead here, if you see it on the screen. But my bronze position, CD Lamb. And CD Lamb, despite being 4, so inconsistent early on, but so dictated by play. He is now a target hound, and that I talked about it earlier. Just because you're a target hound, when it comes to wide receivers, that's a great thing. You can't throw out an interception. You could be throwing a bad ball. It's not going to affect you unless you fumble it. I think he's going to be involved in some high-scoring games. Atlanta this weekend, I think, could be really, really good. Philadelphia, always a weird game between those two. Houston, maybe less so. Washington, I really like. New York Giants. They don't have a run game, so he's going to get, again, I've got every reason to like Lamb, and maybe I should have put him higher there. Week 17, Philadelphia, week 16, Tampa Bay, week 15. He's a playoff machine here. I'm very glad I drafted him early. He is one of the few first-round picks that I think has remained consistent, but he's not my number 1 wide receiver for the stretch. And neither is Justin Jefferson. He's my number 2. He's currently position 4, so consistent. 15, 23, 20, 20, 15, never below the 15. And that's, again, what you want out of a first round pick. If I was to go do it again, it's a bit of a mix of hoop and stretch. If I was to do it again, Justin Jefferson is the direction I would go. Indianapolis this week, I think it could be Graham Scripps out. This could be his one tougher game. But, going into the playoffs, Chicago, that is a tough one, actually. But Seahawks and Green Bay, you're going to pick them on them. Justin Jefferson, I think, is going to be a great player going down the stretch. Of course, he's 99% rostered. Of course, he's going to be a great player. My honourable mention goes to Puka Nacua. I've already talked about it a little bit. He opens up the game. Yes, he was so injured. Yes, we've seen him in one game, but he is Puka bloody Nacua. Second year wide receiver, out of BYU. Everyone knows him. Rookie records, not going to set him this week, but he has got the Seahawks. We already talked about their playoff stretch as well. I think he's going to be good. He's going to be the number one option. Him and Stafford love each other, and they're going to be prepared for a life without Cup, potentially. So it's going to be Puka's game. But the number one wide receiver is, of course, the current number one wide receiver, 99.99999% rostered, Jamar Chase. And with T. Higgins out again, he's going to get more and more targets. Las Vegas, yes, you want that lineup. You want Baltimore, yes, that's going to be a great game. Pittsburgh could be a bit more interesting. There could be a bit touchy. They've got enough cornerbacks. Well, the cornerback play isn't fantastic. Suspect safety play. Anyway, he's going to do well against Dallas. Yes, he's going to do well against Tennessee. Yes, against Cleveland Browns, against Denver. Denver is the toughest one. The only mark on his potential record is that Week 17 game where you're going to be playing for your fantasy playoffs. If you've got him in your lineup, and you definitely want him in your lineup, you want to trade for Jamar Chase, you've got to find a narrative. It's very hard to find a narrative to bring him down. Throw the house at him. Yeah, you definitely want him, especially if you're in Dynasty. You can definitely sacrifice a lot of picks because he is still so incredibly young as well. I think he's like 26. It's crazy. He came into the league so early. But my sleeper pick at wide receiver, I already talked about it a little bit. Lad McConkey, the little guy that could. He's probably not little. He's probably like 3 times my size. Actually, it's not. I'm a big guy, but he's definitely 20 times more athletic than me. He is going to be available in some of your leagues. Yes, he hasn't had those astounding games. Yes, he had a bit of a breakout game last week. I think he will continue to do so as the Jim Harbonaissance. Is it Jim or John? Jim or John? I never which one. The Harbonaissance. Anyway, Harball. That style, what the style they play. Anyway, it's an interesting style. He is the X factor. I've talked about his soft zone play and stuff like that, and I think he's going to be fantastic, and he has a great lineup down the stretch. New England on that championship weekend on week 17, because of course. I'm going to start saying this now. Friends, don't let friends play in week 18. Week 18 sucks. Week 17 used to suck. Now week 18 sucks. Enough said. But he's got some great games down the stretch. And even the tough games, I think he could, because of the way he plays, he's still going to make points if they're chasing games as well. But I like him against Baltimore. I like him against Kansas City. I like him against Tampa Bay in week 15. I like him against Denver because he's not going to be playing up against Pat Surtain as that X receiver. He's going to be playing in the slot and doing his thing. At tight end, we'll save the best to last. No. At tight end, I've already talked about him again. K. Dotton, I think his position ranked 6. I didn't realise that. Probably boosted by a couple of great games early on. He is probably available on some of your waivers. 20% available. Sorry, 25% available. 76% rostered. That math doesn't math. Yes, all tight ends have sucked this year, but he has been a lone bright spot in a few. And with limited weapons, yes, Mike Evans is probably coming back for week 12, which is a bit of a long wait. I didn't realise it was quite such a long wait. But you probably want him down the stretch. Vegas, and they will be playing. This is great. We'll get on QBs, so I might talk about someone else as well. But you want teams who have something to play off going into week 14, 15, 16. But the Bucks are still going to want to capture a playoff spot. I think they have the roster to be able to do it. Despite it being depleted, I think Baker is playing out of his goddamn mind. I've again read some analysis on him, and they were talking about the fact that he has this uncanny ability to go back to college play where it's all more unstructured. This is what he's facing. He's facing unstructured stuff, and that's where he does Baker improvisation. He's going to be great. Anyway, got a tough couple of games coming up next: Kansas City, San Francisco. But that's where you might be throwing to the tight end more. Than your big body wide receivers. Not that they have any of those available at the moment until week 12. New York Giants, Carolina, Vegas. Oh yeah, that's a good set. I like that. And finishing off with Dallas and Carolina as well. You want K. Dotton, and I'm probably going to be digging for some more shares of him. In the silver position, we have Trey McBride, who is one of your top tight ends who is actually paying dividends. Look at these, double-digit points here. He's only had 2 games of less than double-digit points. He's going to have another great game against Chicago. He is a vital part of the offense. He is the number 2 to, well, rather than being the number 2 read, he is the X to Marvin Harrison's Y or Z. It's a funny old thing here. I think he's getting just as much target share as you would expect someone like Marvin Harrison to get, and Marvin Harrison isn't getting it there. So he's got maybe a bit of a tougher lineup, and the Arizona Cardinals do obviously have to go up against a very odd NFC West here. Seahawks, you like that game. Although the Mike McDonald defense is better than advertised. Minnesota, that's a tough game. You don't want to be looking at that one again. But could he be the odd man out when they're taking away things? You can't guard everything after all, unless you're Brian Flores, when you probably can actually. Seahawks again, New England, Carolina, and Rams. That Rams game could be very interesting. Obviously, they absolutely they're overloaded on us in week 2, but it's in SoFi, so in Rams house. So I suspect that to be a difficult game. But either way, Trey McBride, he's a consistent guy. As I said, only 2 games of less than double-digit points. That's what you want out of a tight end one. Honourable mention goes to TJ Hawkinson. Yes, we haven't seen him at all. Somehow he is rostered at 70%, and he is looking like he's coming back for his debut of the season against Indianapolis. Would I save him for later on? Yes, I would. I would be saving him for the gauntlet of Arizona, Atlanta, Chicago, Seahawks, Green Bay, but that is a lineup that is perfect for tight ends. I just haven't seen him play since his injury. That's why he's only in the honourable mention, but he has the raw talent, the draft cattle, and he's got this crazy hoodie look going on right now. He looks like Bill Belichick. He's going to do some damage as well. But my number 1 tight end for the rest of the season, nope. I didn't even put him in. Oh goodness, I forgot. I knew this would go well. But anyway, you can see me type it now. Brock Bowers is my number 1 tight end for the rest of the season. He is position ranked number 2 at the moment. I don't know who he's behind, but so consistent and has those spike games. And he is the guy that everyone wants to throw on. He's the consistent part of that offense when everyone else flits in and out of the lineup. He is so good. Do I like his lineup towards the end? Yeah, it's probably okay actually. Finishing with Atlanta, Jacksonville, and New Orleans in week 17, but he has to play some tough defenses up until that point. Kansas City being one of them, Denver being another one of them, but he avoids some of the AFC West going into those final few weeks, which is what you want. He is not available, but some people might. It just takes a down week for him to be able to snipe him up, so he is someone that I would be looking towards. And you've already seen it, the honourable mention, I would look at 30, whatever he is, years old. Again, I say he's old. He's probably younger than me. Anyway, Zach Ertz. Obviously was fantastic at Philly back in the day, had a couple of down years, suffering with injury, but I think he is becoming fast part of the escape route for Jaden Daniels, and he is a good tight end as a rookie quarterback's best friend. And again, down the stretch, we're looking at New Orleans, Philadelphia, Atlanta, all top plus matchups for a tight end worth his salt. Finally, QBs. And QBs, they shape the game a lot, but in real life, but in fancy talks, maybe less so. But let's have a look at who's available. Jalen Hurts, we'll start off with you. You are my bronze winner. In position 6 at the moment, I think he got off to a slow start. I think you'll start seeing more of these games, these 35-point games like he did against Cincinnati. Wow, I did not realise it was quite that many. It's pretty impressive. Washington and Dallas to finish off the year in your semi-final and final matchups. It's a no-brainer. If you're in the NFC East and you're a decent quarterback, you're going to be playing against some dummy rubbish defenses, so you want a piece of that. one. Number 2 is obviously Jaden Daniels. I've spoken about him no end already today. Fantastic player, and more so that if you get an NFC East quarterback, you're playing NFC East defenses, so you want a piece of that. Finishes off with New Orleans, Philadelphia, Atlanta. Probably a tougher lineup, but you suspect Jaden Daniels, the truth is going to be out there somewhere, and the truth is he is a fantastic quarterback. Honourable mention goes to, was going to go to Joe Burrow. Do you know who I've liked more? And I've talked myself into him. Kirk Cousins. And I'm saying this on the fly. I have not done my research on this one. But Kirk Cousins, thinking about who he's got someone to play for. I like the Baker of it all and stuff like that. He's more available. I think for honourable mention, you want him a bit more available maybe. Kirko Chains finishes off with, I knew it, Las Vegas, New York Giants, Washington. He is going to have something to play for. He's going to have something to prove. Yes, he's a statue. He's not going to get you running yards, but he's going to get you touchdowns. He's going to be better than the old Atlanta quarterbacks, not Mike Vick, but the other ones, Matthew Ryan, who could only ever get you 27 touchdowns. He is going to be better than that this season. And I think he is going to be not only a honorable mention, but a sleeper pick as well. And to finish off lineup, or my number one, it's Lamar Jackson. Of course it's Lamar Jackson. I have not liked some of the other guys. I've not liked Kyler Murray as much this season. I didn't buy into Josh Allen at QB1. I've already talked about the potential for Lamar just to sail to MVP in real life. I think in the fantasy world he could do it as well. He has a little bit of a tougher stretch towards the end, but he's bulletproof. Look at some of these numbers. 30 points, 20 points. 16 is a down game for him. 18 is a down game for him. This is crazy numbers, and you want a piece of Lamar Jackson, but you are never going to be able to trade for him. Where you could have traded for him was 5 or 6 weeks ago when there was some uncertainty there. Now you cannot. And finally, we'll go to our sleeper pick. And this is someone you definitely can pick up. I only rostered in 56% of ESPN leagues. ESPN being pretty consensus, I think, less degenerate than the rest of us sleep a lot, is Bo Nix. Yeah, I like him. I like that line down the stretch, and he's got something to play for because he's trying to prove himself, and he's coming against some teams that you could definitely chip away at. And if you need a guy to fill in for a week, he is your guy. He's got a bye week in 14, but going into the fantasy playoffs, Indianapolis, he will get you over the hump there, you would hope. Chargers, a bit of a tougher game there, and Cincinnati in week 17. If you're in a pinch, championships are not won on who you drafted. Championships are won on who you play with all through the season. So he is a player that I really like the look of down the stretch. And that is a lot, guys. I'm going to have to edit all this now and try and put it out for tomorrow morning somehow. Because there's a lot to edit, a lot of different sessions going on, a lot of different audio profiles to manage. I'm sorry if this is a bit of a slog, but I wanted to have this little Megasode, this mid-season rant, to be able to look back a little bit, look forward a little bit, and give you an idea of what things you can do. But the message is always the same. Just enjoy this game. Please like, share, and subscribe if you get a chance. I don't care. Really, I just want you to enjoy this game of fantasy football. And for me, it gives me so much more enjoyment seeing other people enjoy it, and then gives them the opportunity to look at the game differently. I've had so many people come up to me when I've met them in person, just say they look at the game different now. They don't just ride or die by their team. Yes, the Rams are so incredibly important to me. But do I ride or die by how they do? No, I've got something else to play for as well, because I have a weird tight end playing a game that I didn't really care about before, but I'm going to watch the tape on that guy. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I will be back hopefully with some level of normality at some point soon. I don't know, it was half term, it was a weird week. If you like all this kind of stuff, you can go to rugbypads.com, get yourself a membership. It really helps support. I'm going to try and showcase some of the stuff I'm trying to do with the membership money, like build some trophies and some championship belts. Rugbypads.com, you can get the membership from as little as £1 a month. Not going to do the handout kind of thing because I don't want to be accused of false advertising. You get a little bit if you put a bit in. I would love to do more content there as well. Obviously you can buy shirts and stuff like that. I'm not modelling anything today. I'm modelling Dulwich Hamlet's hat as well. Ed, if you're listening, you're now representing. yeah, you can get like there's personalized hats, there's t-shirts, hoodies, which I love. I live in my hoodies. I've started doing embroidery stuff as well, which is a bit expensive for me, so that's why you need to buy a membership as well. But if you have a membership, you can get 10% off all your clothing, and it's really lovely quality as well. I'm not just saying that; it is really lovely quality. I wear it a lot because it's nice. There. But if you enjoy this as well, obviously if you can like, share, subscribe. I'm not very good at the socials, but give me a thumbs up. That's all I ask for. I hope you like this kind of content, especially if you're in one of my leagues as well. I hope you like the kind of the wraparound stuff that we're going on here as well. But thank you so much for listening this far. I know I've rambled on. If you skip through it a lot, I don't mind as well. I'm going to try and put markers in the YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But thank you so much for listening. And of course, as always, I will see you on the virtual gridiron.